Support independent media on Patreon, patreon.com/theprogressivevoice. Get premium content as well as support the show. So there is a very, very big story that I am going over here, because this is the first sort of clash between Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren that we have really seen in this race. Now, this is a little bit all over the place. Okay, so Politico reported on this scoop. Okay, it says, Bernie stealthily goes negative on Warren with a volunteer script to tell Warren-leaning voters that she only appeals to the, quote, affluent, highly educated, and she's bringing no new bases into the Dem party. I retyped script below to protect sourcing. And this is a Politico story. So, obviously what they're trying to do is they're trying to, create drama, so discourse, etc., etc. And, oh, by the way, I want to say that this is 100% true. But, basically, this is the, list that they give, and what it says is, it says, if they're leaning Warren, this is essentially an answer to somebody who would be leaning Warren, I like Elizabeth Warren, optional. In fact, she's my second choice. But here's my concern about her. The people who support her are highly educated, more affluent people who are going to show up and vote Democrat no matter what. She's bringing no new bases into the Democratic Party. We need to turn out disaffected working class voters if we're going to defeat Trump. Now, that's all on the money, obviously, but a Bernie Sanders volunteer explains this, or before we actually jump into that, let's go ahead and see Elizabeth Warren's response to this, because she actually called out Bernie here.
The Bernie Sanders campaign and the way that they are talking about you at the doors here in Iowa, basically saying that your voters are people who will vote Democrat anyway, that you don't bring new bases into the Democratic tent. Why is he wrong?
I was disappointed to hear that Bernie is sending his volunteers out to train me. Bernie knows me and has known me for a long time. He knows who I am, where I come from, what I have worked on and fought for, and the coalition and grassroots movement we're trying to build. Democrats want to win in 2020. We all saw the impact of the factionalism in 2016, and we can't have a repeat of that. Democrats need to unite our party, and that means pulling in all parts of the Democratic coalition. It means building a grassroots movement with face-to-face conversations with people and door knocking. It means getting our positive message out to people. That's how we will beat Donald Trump. We cannot nominate someone who takes big chunks of the Democratic coalition for granted. We need someone who will bring our party together. We need someone who will excite every part of the Democratic Party. Someone who will be there. Someone that every Democrat can believe in. I hope Bernie reconsiders and turns his campaign in a different direction.
You say you need someone, though, who every Democrat can get behind. Is that not Bernie Sanders?
I believe we need someone every Democrat can get behind. I'm out there fighting for every Democrat.
So she's not even, this David Pakman level of weaselness, of course. But this is hilarious to me. This is hilarious on two counts. A, because what Bernie Sanders said was 100% true. And as you see there, the reporter asked her, why is he wrong on that? Notice how she couldn't rebut it. She's going to bring no disaffected working class voters into the into the Elizabeth Warren campaign at all. And the whole we need the Democrats, the whole Democratic Party thing is hilarious, because she's basically talking about needing to have centrists. But notice how she could not respond to the criticism, which is supposedly coming from Bernie Sanders. But it turns out that this is not actually coming from Bernie Sanders. So this is from a Bernie Sanders volunteer. He says, here's what actually happened. A random user who's only ever posted once before posted that document in the Sanders Volunteer Slack group. A moderator promptly removed it and stated that it was not a campaign source. Bernie is not sending his volunteers out to trash any candidate. We have a very strict code of conduct in how we must interact with voters if we want to be part of the campaign. Politico, and every other outlet reporting on this non-story are being used incredibly irresponsibly. I would happily post a screenshot of the conversation in Slack, but then I would be violating the agreement I made with the campaign to not share screenshots from Slack. They delete anything that talks about any other candidate in a negative way. I could right now go dump a document criticizing every candidate in Warren's campaign app, then screenshot it and send it to Politico so they could write a story about it. This was not a campaign maneuver, period. So what he's breaking down is this was not a campaign source. Slack, if you don't know, is basically like, for, I don't know if there are other uses, but people on campaigns and news websites and stuff like that will use it to discuss, the work that they're putting out and stuff like that. So someone posted it in there and then it was deleted because they have a very strict rule in terms of these documents that they can make. And they're not allowed to be negative about the other candidates. The Bernie Sanders direction as to how to create those is very, very clear on this. And it specifically says that it cannot be negative. And in addition to that, as you guys know, Bernie Sanders has been incredibly, incredibly reserved and has not gone after anybody negatively. He'll throw some shots at Biden here and there. He's never even touched Elizabeth Warren. He'll sprinkle in a little bit of like what you could maybe consider an attack if you're a little weenie baby. It's not even an attack. It would just be a disagreement on a certain policy position. So when you crumple all those together, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you jumping on this? This is clearly not the case. So this situation is embarrassing on 2 counts. One of them, it's totally made up. It's completely fabricated. And that it's not real. That's not Bernie Sanders or the campaign. It's not a campaign document. One person posted it and that was it. And it was deleted by a moderator. So she's falling for that, which is embarrassing. And then the criticism that was provided, she can't even respond to it because she knows it's true. It is true that Elizabeth Warren's sort of coalition is the wealthy, not wealthy necessarily, but, the educated elite folks. Okay, there's no doubt about that. And there's no way she's going to appeal to the working class at all. It gets even more embarrassing, though. She sent out an email to her supporters trying to raise money from this. She says, last night we got some disappointing news. Bernie Sanders' campaign is instructing volunteers to dismiss our broad-based and inclusive campaign by saying the, quote, people who support Elizabeth are highly educated, more affluent people. When I heard that description, I didn't recognize it. That doesn't describe me or many of the passionate volunteers and organizers I know. This type of attack isn't about disagreeing on issues. It's about dismissing the potency of our grassroots movement. Let's be clear, as a party and as a country, we can't afford to repeat the factionalism of the 2016 primary. To win in November, we need a nominee who can unite a broad coalition of Democrats, who will excite every part of the Democratic Party and inspires more people to join the fight. So I have a lot of problems with this, all right? One of those problems being she's essentially appealing to centrists from this by saying, we need a candidate who can basically appeal to all parts of the Democratic Party. So she's talking about we need someone who can get centrist, right? Because those are, presumably the Democrats that Bernie can't excite, right? Which is absolutely hilarious to me because if you want to win, you got to look at independents, you got to look at non-voters. Those are the people that you're looking at, all right? And when you look at the numbers-wise, like that description of voters of Warren are numbers-based. These are statistics. They're numerical. They're numbers. So you can't deny it, and notice how they can't deny it, So they're literally fundraising off of a massive lie. But the reason why the Elizabeth Warren campaign is doing this is because it's flailing in the wind. It's collapsing. If you look at Real Clear Politics, wish I had pulled it up, she's down and she keeps going down. Bernie Sanders is surging, okay? He's up to over 20 points. Elizabeth Warren can't crack 15 right now nationally, all right? She's also dipped hardcore in a recent poll in Nevada. She had a good polling show in the Des Moines Register, but other Iowa polls have shown her as dipping, some of them below the threshold to get any delegates. Same thing as New Hampshire. So early state polling, not so great. All right, national polling going down, fundraising lagging. They're trying to take advantage of this lie to, fundraise this. And Bernie Sanders has come out and responded by saying, he's like, when have I attacked when have I attacked Elizabeth Warren and stuff like that? And he's talking about how, no, this is ridiculous. So I have also a curiosity and some questions about what this means for the future of the Elizabeth Warren-Bernie Sanders relationship, because they're pretty close. As I explained to you guys earlier, Bernie Sanders refused to say anything bad about Elizabeth Warren forever, and still hasn't to this day. But it seems like Warren didn't care about that, kind of just ripped it up. And I don't know where it really goes from here, but this is definitely fascinating. This is the first Warren-Bernie back and forth that we have seen this time around. So I will make sure to keep you guys updated on everything else that goes on.